Hi, Yesenia. This is Jackie, and I really hope I'm saying your name right, Yesenia. Um, Sorry to just be getting to this video for you because I know you were the one, one of your colleagues who I wasn't able to speak to the other day when you were in my office. I know your annotated bibliography was already due, but I'm hoping this is helpful for your final paper. And I let Dr. Russell know that you had all had popped in and that you were someone I was not able to speak to at the time regarding your question. So, anywho, so your topic is tuition cost, college tuition cost, of course. I mean, there's some cases where there's high schools and such that charge. But we didn't have time to dig in a little bit deeper into your topic, so I'm going to kind of show you some of our databases. I'll probably be making assumptions along the way, which is the rising cost of tuition is maybe a barrier to students as terms of access. We could look specifically at community colleges. We could also look at four-year public institutions. We could also look at private schools. So you might want to choose a specific one if you find in your research that you're finding too much information. So I'm going to make the assumption that tuition cost is becoming an increasing barrier for students. It's certainly something I hear all the time. We'll probably also find some articles on schools that have made some changes to tuition. So for example, the state of Tennessee now offers free tuition for community college students. Oregon does that on a limited basis, so that might be something interesting to add to your paper. What are states doing to make college affordable for students? I will say, especially community colleges. Community colleges have only been around since the 1960s, and the intention behind it is that it was to increase opportunity and access for individuals seeking a college education who may not have had that prior to that. The only other example I can think of, if you need to dig a little bit deeper, is looking at college paid for via like the GI Bill. So that's the if you served in the military, you get a free college education. What does that look like in terms of success and such? So all of that will look at the cost of going to college, basically. So starting from our college homepage, I know you got your library card. I saw you guys back here, so you should be able to do this from home. You'll go to, of course, bluecc.edu, and then you'll click on library, and that gets you here. So we'll go down to our library databases. And our top library databases, I'm going to do a whirlwind tour through our top four, these 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm hoping to get it all done in the scope of this video. My recording window is 15 minutes, so I'm hoping that about the next 10 minutes we can do these. I might have to send you a second video if that happens. So anyway, opposing viewpoints. You were sitting kind of far away on the couch, so you may not have seen this, but you might remember it from another class. The opposing viewpoints database is, I've referred to it as a breadcrumb database. You can follow basically your topic to, if it exists in this database. Not all topics exist, of course, in this database, but you can follow it to a larger kind of curated section that includes like an overview of the topic. It will include different viewpoints, formats, things like that. And in this case, we have it easy. I noticed that this was right here today. We don't have to wonder where your topic might be. What can happen sometimes is that a lot of our topics cross disciplines. This could easily be a national debate topic. I mean, if you're doing more in school funding, for example, this could easily be a society and culture topic. And certainly, perhaps, arguably, I mean, actually, we have under law and politics, historically black colleges and universities. Kind of fascinating. But in this case, they put it under the business and economics section. If you wanted to, look at more, you would just click view all, but how easy for us right here. We don't have to think about it. So this is really looks like looking at the college tuition and student loan crisis. And it doesn't look like grants or scholarships. But anyway, what's wonderful is that it's going to give you a great background bit of information, which is looking at some great statistics that you will probably want to include in your paper. If you want to read the entire article, of course, you would just click view more. Something you might want to take a look at is, according to the report from the College Board, I'm assuming this is the National College Board. You might look at the National Department of Education, but rising tuition rates and that sort of thing. You know, you can always scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you know, it's not giving us a good bibliography here, but it's the debt crisis, something you might want to take a look at. The other thing that you might want to take a look at is some other key phrases that come up. So, you know, you could certainly type in college tuition, but you might want to look at some other key terms that speak to what you're looking at in your later keyword searching, like the student debt crisis, college affordability, rising tuition. I think, you know, our first natural search would be to type in college tuition costs, or college tuition, or increasing or rising college tuition. Keep in mind other terms that talk about your subject when you're doing your search, which again, college affordability. We know what that means, but that wouldn't necessarily be our starting point for our search. But if you keep that in mind, it might lead you to other things. Going back here, you might remember some of these things. Again, you were sitting far away. The Opposing Viewpoints database organizes itself. They always have a top 3. So if you want to look at more content, you would just click the link here and that would take you to all, in this case, all the viewpoints on this subject. So you would simply click here. These viewpoints are really, they're not just kind of asked in a vacuum. They're asking people who have some sufficient knowledge on this topic. And these viewpoints usually try to offer different points of view on a similar question. And they're not always right next to one another. I'm just going to point out here on the right again, look, it's I didn't type in higher education cost, right? College is a synonym, of course, for higher education. So really interesting. Interesting. Student loans promote poor decisions and prolong adolescence. That's kind of fascinating. This is kind of looking at strengthening our economy through college for all. So probably the importance of a college education. This person is saying increased student loan debt is not a big problem. Why you might be paying student loans until you retire, I am one of those people. My student loans are 6 figures. I'll just give you that as a personal aside. I mean, I have 2 master's degrees. That's my own fault, I guess. Anywho, if you were interested, say, in this article, again, you might remember, here's the article here. Some really important tools that you might want to take a look at if you're interested in keeping this article. I would suggest emailing yourself, to be honest. If you email yourself, then these articles, you know where to access them. They're sitting in your email. You don't have to worry about it being on a flash drive. You don't have to worry about printing it out and making sure you know where that piece of paper is. You might be super organized, and that's not a problem for you, but I always say an email is a good backup plan. But again, you can also download these. You can print. The save features and these features here, those exist if you have actually an account established within Gale. So, so you could sign in with Google, for example, and link your Google account to Gale if you're interested and have those things living there for you. It's kind of cool, actually. Just creates a folder in your Google Drive account, and there you are. Citation tools, you might remember if you click here. The default here is to the MLA citation, but if you were in a different class, and I think you said you hadn't taken COM 111 yet, for COM 111 you'll be using APA rather than MLA, just to be advised. And let's get back here. But here's basically what you would use in your citation. You know, you can use this how you want. I always just do a copy paste personally, so I have a Word document existing, you know, side by side, and I would just take that information, paste it right into that Word document, and I'd have this rolling bibliography waiting for me, a rolling works cited page waiting for me. That was just there for me to edit for my paper. As a reminder, you don't need the URL. So one edit you will definitely make after you cut and paste is removing that URL. And that's because this is from a database rather than, like, say, Google. If you found it online in another format, you would use the URL. And also, after you paste it in, you might want to find yourself indenting and such. So anyway, in a nutshell, I know you have to use academic sources, but I think getting some background information and stats, you need those for your paper as well. The academic journals live over here for the most part, but there's also some great resources from primary resources. Some great audio. I think that's incredibly valuable, and some other, newspapers and such. So very, very interesting. So again, they list the top 3, but you can go ahead and click on academic journals. And this is kind of interesting. Faculty in debt. Do you know that there are more adjunct faculty in this country? Here they are, most of them have at least master's degrees or PhDs, and 25% of adjunct faculty are collecting food stamps because they can't make enough money to through their adjunct teaching to subsist. That's kind of a fascinating issue. Okay, so that is Academic 1 file. I'll just close all this actually, and we'll go back to our library homepage. Library databases, top library databases. I already see I'm going to have to make you a second video. I'm sorry. We'll look at our second topical database. And I love this database. I think it's also a hot topic database. So it's limited in the sense that if your topic is not considered a hot topic, it might not rise and exist in this database. But if it does, you've really kind of stumbled upon a gold mine for your topic. And there's a couple things you can do here. Similar concept to the last database, but it's not laid out in the same nice little breadcrumb format. You could do a keyword search, absolutely. So that's where you try using tuition, try using student debt, try using what did we say, student affordability, that sort of thing. But you can also go here by topic, and this I think certainly is can fall into many topics, but I'm going to go with what I think is the most obvious, which is education. And this is great. Oh, interesting. So they're both the cost of education and school funding. It's kind of interesting. And also college financing and funding. So I'll start there. Okay, very interesting. Rising college costs. So these are in order by, year of publication. Student debt right here is, and there's short reports and longer reports. I kind of advise going to the longer reports to get more content. I'm just curious what the other one looks like. So cost of education. Education policy chart, student debt. Okay, so some of the still same things come up. Community colleges. So, okay, just curious. College finance. Oops. You could look at education policy to balance out your thoughts. But clicking here on student debt seems like an obvious, wow, and they ask the question, should college tuition be free? If you wanted to look at that argument for your paper, that might be really fascinating. The other handy thing is that there's some, related reports right here just under college financing. Some of them become older. So this is 2016, I think I saw it somewhere. Oh, yes, right here. So this is the newest. If for some reason you wanted to look at student aid or rising college costs, this is now 15 years old. You might find that valuable. So one of the reasons I love this database is that it gives you this kind of wonderful setup for how you might want to organize your own paper. And you might remember me saying this, like for your own paper, for your audience, you want to give them an introduction and an overview to the topic and background. You might want to look at, give examples of what's currently going on and outlooks and any sort of pros and cons with the issue. Again, one feature I always like to point out is the maps and graphs, because again, I think you haven't taken Com 111 yet, but these maps and graphs are wonderful. If you're, say, presenting on a similar topic in that class, you could just, copy and paste this right into your PowerPoint, and you have a great visual aid for that class. So full report here. Just scrolling down, they're a little long, but, so readable. A lot of graphs, a lot of pictures. Should it be free? Answering some our schools doing enough to hold down cost, some questions that you might really want to make sure you include. Rising for-profit schools, kind of scary. And here's the pro-con. Should public college tuition be free? Well, this person is arguing yes, it should. This person, no. In this case, they're not. They're often legislators, in some way government officials. In this case, these both look like directors or presidents of nonprofits. So really quickly, the citation features here. Make sure you click on MLA. You can email, you can print, You can view the PDF and send it to yourself, but in a nutshell, that's CQ.